Hello, World Studies. Here we are again. Looks like we're going to finish off Unit 4 on video. Not quite the way I was envisioning this, and not quite the way I prefer this, but we do what we got to do, folks, to get the job done. So I'm going to take you through. We don't have a ton left to cover. Although we still have to pretty much kind of get us through to the very end of the French Revolution and all that kind of business. So we shall do that, all right? And as usual, try to get you some little extras that you can throw over there into your left column, all right? So this is where we left off earlier this week when you had your last round of some video notes. We got the Committee of Public Safety now that is taken over from the National Assembly, who had been running things when the revolution first broke out. And the CPS is going to be the group again that pretty much brings the terror, or some books call it the Great Terror. There's different descriptions for it, but brings the terror to France, as we were talking about, just this sense of paranoia, all right, which isn't helped by the fact that there's still a lot of people running around in France who really do want to see a king come back. They call themselves royalists. And one of the reasons that Robespierre and the other people who support the revolution, part of the reason why they're paranoid is because from time to time, these royalists will try to pull something. I mean, King Louis is gone, but that doesn't mean that they can't find someone else maybe related to King Louis that they can throw on the throne. His kids are still alive at this point, and there's a couple of sons, and so there's always that. All of that kind of business. So, there's a little bit of reason for that paranoia, but at the same time, it goes way, way overboard. All right. And then we'd have down there where we left off was the raising of this army, French army, which, by the way, among the many members of that army was a young officer at this point in time. He is an officer in the artillery, like the cannons. And there's a guy that was born on Corsica, which is an island down in the Mediterranean off the coast of France. So he's French-ish. He's French. But his name is Napoleon Bonaparte. And so he is a supporter of the revolution, definitely on the revolutionary side of things. But he is in the French army during all of this and helping to, defend France and support the revolution. All right, let's get going here with the rest of it. Okay, so like I said, we bring this thing to an end. How is this revolution going to come to an end? Well, not in a good way, folks. Not in a good way, especially when we think about the goals of the revolution in the first place. Raise up the third estate, make things more equal. All that. When we think about the Declaration of the Rights of Man and all that, or rights of the citizen and man, all that kind of business. This is going to be kind of a frustrating story when it's all said and done. All right. So where we left things off on that last slide, it just becomes even more and more of an issue as the word I'm going to keep leaning on is paranoia. All right. That when people are paranoid and people who think that there's always someone out to get them. And that's definitely what's going on here. And just the level is being increased and increased in terms of the fear that's out there and just how hard-handed the CPS comes down on anyone who is suspected of being counter-revolutionary or against the revolution, like we talked about last time. I mean, just some horrible stories coming out of all of that people who died, who probably never said did anything, but were accused anyway. All right. Where Robespierre finally crosses a line is when he begins to look at the other people who are helping him to lead the Committee of Public Safety, and some of them are starting to have some conversations kind of behind Robespierre's back, with each other, saying, what's going on with this guy? What's happening here? And as word of these conversations start to make it back to Robespierre, um, now, he kind of views them as, you're questioning me, you're questioning my authority, to lead this group and to lead the revolution. And, you got to think about the perspective on this, gang. I mean, remember, this revolution was to bring down a king who had absolute rule, and and no one could question him without fear of punishment. Robespierre, if you think about it in a certain way, is turning into King Louis the 16th. Okay, people are questioning him, and he's pushing right back, saying, dang right, I have the authority, and he orders a number of these other leaders of the revolution to be arrested. Some of them are thrown in prison, and a number of them are dragged to the guillotine and dealt with that way. And that's kind of where is going to start the road towards the kind of I don't know, starting to spell the doom of Mr. Robespierre there. Because the leaders who are still surviving, who've not been arrested, begin to, very quickly it becomes very clear the only way that we're going to end this madness is we have to end Robespierre. Okay, that the two, the terror and Robespierre, are now almost kind of merging together to be synonymous with each other, and so. The plot starts to get underway to deal with Robespierre. In the minds of many of these other revolutionary leaders, he is now, the threat to the revolution, because he's morphing into some kind of version, in his own mind, of thinking that he has all of this power, and that wasn't the intent of the revolution at all. Okay, so yes, plans made to do away with the guy who had been, so inspirational at the beginning of all of this. All right, boom, and he is finally is placed under arrest, just like King Louis and Marie Antoinette, charged with treason, against France. And is found guilty somewhere in the midst of all of this. And as he's awaiting for his sentence of death to be carried out, he attempts to commit suicide, and that doesn't work. And somehow he gets his hands on a pistol and shoots himself, but only just bungles the job, and finally dragged to the guillotine himself. And the same fate that he had ordered for so many other people becomes his own. And with the death of Robespierre, the new leaders of the CPS step up and basically say, this insanity has got to stop. And that is where we, us as historians, where we can see the terror finally comes to an end. Sorry, I do a quick interruption there. Had a little bit of a dog uprising on my hands. My apologies. All right, back to it. All right, so we have Robespierre gone. We have the terror gone. There we are. All right, and that's going to represent a yet another change in the leadership of the French Revolution. And so from the Committee of Public Safety, the last phase of the revolution is going to be led by a group called the Directory. So we got to think about this. We go back to the beginning of the revolution. We have King Louis XVI in charge, and then we've got the rise of the National Assembly, and King is out after storming of Bastille, and arrested and executed. And then from the National Assembly, we go to the Committee of Public Safety, and then from the Committee of Public Safety, we go to the Directory. All right, so ta-boom, ta-boom, ta-boom. All right, so here we go. A little about them. The Directory sees itself in the job of trying to get the revolution back on track. Now there's going to be a lot of French people who are kind of suspicious. It's like, wow, we didn't expect there to be quite this much blood. We didn't expect that things to, we thought that things were going to change in France in a much better way once King Louis was out of the way, and this just isn't happening. And so the director is going to try to, like I said, get things going the right way. And so they take another stab at a plan for government. Remember, the National Assembly had written a new constitution, and the Directory is going to write another one. And so creating another government for France, it's just like take two, take three, and going from there. All right, and that's pretty much how the Directory operates. Okay, so it gets its name from the point that they call the five leaders who are selected for this. They call them directors, and then they bring together people to help them make laws and all that sort of thing. People who, it's kind of like it's kind of like when we had the Estates General. I mean, the estates are gone now with the revolution, but the idea of people from different parts of France representing the population who come together, that's where we get that representative legislative body to help make rules, laws, all that kind of thing. So the Directory, they're not running things like it's just five guys and we're the show. I mean, they are working with a larger group. So this is improvement from the Committee of Public Safety, which had really turned into the Robespierre show. And so yeah, it is going in the right way. All right, but over time, it doesn't even take much time. The Directory is going to struggle. All right, and you got the corruption word down there at the bottom of C, and that's really going to be the issue. It seems like some of the rot that starts with the terror, the revolution begins to just continue on. And even though it's a new government and a new plan for government, there's going to be a lot that doesn't get done because it increasingly seems like a lot of people who work within the Directory are there to enrich themselves, to make their lives better at the expense of everyone else. And that's usually what happens when we talk about corruption in government. It's people who take advantage of their role of power that they have to figure out ways of making money for themselves, and not why you're supposed to get into government. All right, you're supposed to be there because you want to represent people, you want to make your country better, those kinds of things, not to make yourself rich. And so that's going to be a major problem for the Directory. Okay, and while all of this is going on, you'll see that picture on the far left. There he is, showing up for the first time in the slides. He doesn't get a lot of, again, Napoleon does not get a lot of major attention in my unit here. But Napoleon, during this time frame, we have this changeover from the CPS to the Directory. Some of those royalists are going to see this as opportunity time. It's like, oh, the revolution is faltering. Let's go ahead and see what we can do. And some of the royalists are able to band together and actually, I mean, fairly organized and violent pushback. It's almost like a revolution against the revolution. But the French army is able to squash that down, and Napoleon plays a role in that, bringing his cannons in and actually firing at the royalists to end their attempt to try to bring a king back to France. So yeah, Napoleon's still right behind the revolution there all through this time period. All right, and then our last slide here. So Napoleon is going to go on and from defending the revolution to eventually overthrowing the revolution. He will rise in the ranks of the French army, and fairly soon is leading French troops in a lot of victories over different enemies, which is going to turn him into quite a bit of a hero to a lot of the French people. And as the problems with the directory become more and more severe with the corruption, and then that leads to people not trusting the government, and just a lot of complaints. And Napoleon finally decides that the only answer to saving the revolution, saving France, is to I use the word overthrow the directory. In other words, for him to use the fact that he's got an entire army behind him to say that you're all fired, and I'm gonna get things under control here myself. And that is more or less what Napoleon is going to do in 1799. Okay, there's the man. And for those of you wondering, it's like, why is the hand always tucked in the shirt or the vest or the jacket like that? And back in the 17th century, 18th century, going on into parts of the 19th century, it was kind of considered to be this kind of gentlemanly, heroic kind of a pose, kind of, I don't know, just one of those things that someone who has kind of all those qualities of a leader, of a person of government, of responsibility, um, some kind of thing like that. I know people are like, is his hands just always cold? No. Did he maybe have a little deformed hand and he just kind of hide it? No. Because you'll see that pose with a lot of different leaders. And just I don't know. It's just one of those things. Again, we look through history. There's gonna be a lot of people who hold on. Sorry again. Dog's trying to remind me he wants to be fed. It's like, don't forget about me. Don't forget about me. Okay. Anyhow, yeah, weird gestures. I don't know. Again, someday people are gonna look back at us and when the dab was the all the rage. Why are people doing that weird thing? The arms kind of thrown out. And what's that all about? I don't know. You always have again all this kind of nutty stuff going on. Anyhow, you got E there, and sometimes folks in history, we talk about things going full circle. All right. That you start out in a certain kind of a situation, and then a whole bunch of stuff happens, good stuff, bad stuff. And when the dust settles, 5 years later, 10 years later, however long it might be, it's like nothing changed. And when we look at what the original goals were of the French Revolution, and then where things end up, yeah, it's kind of hard to argue that if the French people kind of by the time you get to 1799 are looking around going, wait a minute, what happened? I wouldn't blame them. They carry out this really hopeful revolution that's supposed to completely recreate France, recreate society, everything. And 10 years later, while he's not a king, they still have an emperor who pretty much has near total absolute power, just the same way that King Louis XVI had, and his father before him, and his father before him, so on and so forth. And so, yeah, the story of the French Revolution is a little unsatisfying that way, in that you're kind of hoping that when it's all said and done that it's a brand new day and everything's so much better, and it really doesn't happen. That happens sometimes in history, folks. It happens sometimes. We may have time to talk about another example of that a little later on in the spring. Anyhow, yeah. I guess that pretty much sums it up. But let's talk about some of the significance coming out of this revolution, because it's not all just frustration and, hey, what happened? Still, again, Napoleon is not a king. So the monarchy is gone. We can call that a definite, effect of the French Revolution. No more monarchy. All right. And even under Napoleon, there is still going to be a little bit more, maybe not as much as the French people had hoped for, but still more emphasis on, equality and justice, that sort of a thing. Okay. And so that's not going to completely go away just because Napoleon's in charge. Probably not going to be quite to the level that people had hoped for, but better than the way it was under King Louis XVI. All right. And because of that, we can add a third kind of a, what's significant, or an effect of the revolution. That is that it does unify a large portion of the French population. Now, a lot of those same people who were unified in the revolution will now be unified in throwing their support behind Napoleon. And some of you who know the story about Napoleon know that he will go on to have a number of years of victories where he's going to turn France into, without a doubt, the most powerful land force in the known world at that time, conquering countries left and right, and fighting famous battles and all that before things will eventually turn against him. And that probably is the fourth effect of the French Revolution, is that it brings in what is known as the Napoleonic era, which is going to last for about the next 15 years, where Napoleon does carry out all these victories and conquers all this territory. Things will finally start to unravel for Napoleon in about 1812, when he tries to invade Russia and ends up being thrown back. And then things kind of tailspin all the way down to 1815, when he loses a big battle up in Belgium, a place called Waterloo, and is when he loses that battle and basically loses France, he's exiled off to an island to spend his last years before he dies in infamy. Anyhow, that gives you, again, some of the short list, I guess, 4 different ways that the revolution still has an impact, still is significant, and it's a revolution that will inspire people elsewhere, to kind of learn from the mistakes of the French Revolution, but to still rise up against leaders who are, what they view as oppressing them, taking advantage of them, not treating them equally or justly. It definitely will provide that inspiration for other revolutions. Okay? And I think, yes, that gets us to the end of Unit 4. So, when we are back together next week, along with jumping headlong into our storyboard projects, we will talk about getting ready to take a little test over Unit 4, over the French Revolution. I don't know, call it a little test or a big quiz, I don't know, but we'll do a little bit of a little review assignment for you that'll make use of your notes, and we'll have ourselves ready. Don't know, gotta look at my planner book to figure out when that's going to happen, but it'll be coming soon enough. I would not be surprised if maybe a week from today we are sitting down to do that, or maybe next Thursday. I don't know. We'll figure that out on Monday. All right, but you got them all. Make sure they're in your notebook. Make sure that left column is looking awesome. Make sure you've got some beautiful summaries, 2 sentences. All right, on the bottom of each full page of notes, and just as usual, I'll collect your notebooks next week when we take this little assessment over the French Revolution. All right, but that is it for now. Until I see you in class. Take care.